you can quite literally stretch a dollar, to use a phrase that we've probably all heard. Somehow there is something that happens with money that when you begin to work with it in a kind of a spiritual and energetic way, it does expand for the meeting of need, not greed. And I suppose that's linked in with the principle of, or the image of the river.
How would money be an instrument of goodwill?
Well, there's so many ways. Some years ago I heard a commentary by Roger Rosenblatt, the journalist, on Channel 13, who was speaking about money for good. Money as an agent for good. And he expressed it so beautifully. It's very creative to think of using money as a means to support and strengthen the good. And there are any number of ways you can do this. You can use it for philanthropical causes, for charities, for helping people you know, for supporting your community. You can think in terms that are farther afield and imagine using it to help people in impoverished countries. There are any number of ways it can be used to express goodwill.
Yes, and when it's given to fill a real need, an obvious need, I think it's best when it's given and asking nothing in return. Then one can release it freely, and there is no obligation, no strings attached or anything like that, because giving from an attitude of goodwill implies a certain degree of release from the hold of that material substance. And so I think if one recognizes a genuine need and gives of it freely and spontaneously, I'm thinking of the response after September 11th. There was a tremendous outpouring of money in this country. They literally took in close to $1 billion, I think, was given. And this was spontaneously given just to help the victims and their families. And it was a tremendous example of the potential that lies out there within the heart of this country, the people in this country. And I think that's something, a genuineness that cannot be overlooked.
And it's not just in our own society. Maybe some of our listeners read on the front of the Times a few weeks ago about the Maasai people in Kenya who had not heard about September 11th until just recently. They don't have television and radio. They're rural pastoral people, but one of their own community came back from having been in America and told them about this disaster. He had a hard time explaining to them how people could fall from 80 floors. They couldn't imagine buildings that high, and it was very difficult for them to grasp. But when they realized what had happened, they gave their cattle to the people of New York.
Oh, boy.
And
Touching.
it so touched me because that's their greatest wealth, and without a thought or any deliberation, they turned over all their cattle to the people of New York.
4 cows, I think. 4, wasn't it? 4 cows?
I think it was more than that.
More than that, maybe so.
It was. They emptied out their cow coffers, you could say.
Well, that's their money. That's what they use for money.
Right, and they gave out of their own abundance without reservation. That's how we should all share, but
it was certainly their demonstration of love.
Oh, yeah. It was, to me, a telling example of people giving from the heart.
Right, absolutely.
For those people who just tuned in, you're listening to Inner Sight, and today we're discussing the spiritual use of money. And if you'd like a general package of information where you'll find out what Lucis Trust is all about, who we are, you can certainly do so by giving us a call, and we'll send you out a general package of information that contains a lot of material, including a wonderful prayer that Sarah says at the end of the show, the Great Invocation. But there's quite a bit of material informing you as to who we are and some of our ways of looking at life. Perhaps for a lack of a better expression, the best way of saying what Lucis Trust is all about is that it's a spiritual philosophy organization. We're not a religion. We have people who come to our monthly meetings who are from all walks of life, or a variety of religious backgrounds. And we talk about how to make the world a better place and what each of us can do. So if you'd like the general package of information, we'll send it out to you, of course, free of charge. 1-866-695-8247. Once again, 1-866-695-8247. And if you'd like copies of our cassette tapes or our books or any information that you'd like, you can do so by calling that number, 1-866, an easy way to remember it, 1-866-NY Lucis. Think of New York Lucis. And all the work of the Lucis Trust, including this radio program, is funded by the voluntary donations of people like yourselves who support the goals of the Lucis Trust. We're not endowed, nor do we have a wealthy benefactor who helps to pay for this program. We depend on the donations, large and small, of individuals, so please give if you want these programs to continue on the air. Donations can be sent to Lucis Trust, 120 Wall Street, New York, New York, 10005. And our website is www.lucistrust.org, and if you key into that website, you can take a look and listen to all of the previously archived library of shows that we have, and we have a lot by this time. Once again, that website, www.lucistrust.org. And perhaps I was also thinking what Dale and you were saying, Sarah, before about people who get very wealthy, but their money ends up owning them, and that's an interesting concept. I've seen that so often where people can't go a particular place or do a particular thing or even set forth the most basic freedoms because they're so immersed in their material possessions. But more importantly, just to get back to our show, how does the Lucis Trust fund its work? Because here we are talking about giving and the energy of giving.
One of the amusing things about our name, Lucis Trust, is that quite often people assume we're a financial trust and will call us in hopes of being able to get some money from us. It's a little bit amusing because our work is conducted entirely by voluntary donation. We've been in existence since about 1921, so it's been 80 years, and we have always refuse to charge for what we make available, our newsletters, our literature, our meetings, the training that we offer through the Arcane School, which is a correspondence course, the seminars, conferences that we hold. All of that is offered on a voluntary donation basis. Not because we don't like money. We would love to have a lot more money because we could do so much more in our work. But because we believe that no price can be put on spiritual teaching, which is what we offer through our literature and our programs, through this radio program, which, by the way, happens to be extremely expensive because WOR is a very popular radio station. We don't charge for spiritual teaching because if you think about it, what price would you put on it? $1 million for an awareness of the plan of God? $10,000? You couldn't put a price. But what we have to do is try to educate people to understand that if they want to support the principles of our work, and if they can donate, that is how our work can go forward. We have always had to generate this sense of responsibility on the part of our co-workers and our supporters so that they can fund our work.
And speaking of funding our work, if if you in the listening audience would like to donate, as Robert has just said earlier, why, please do, because, and as Sarah said, this radio station is rather expensive for us, and we have expenses to meet, and if we want to stay on the air, then we need the funds to do that, and we need your help to help us out in that. Now, if you are willing to give a donation,